He said, "My dear departed grandmothers, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning in their grave right now to see their family's name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way, jokingly or not, with a fraudulent stereotype of a pot-smoking joy seeker and in the pursuit of identity politics." What's your reaction?
Hi everybody, my name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you're finding something of value here. I truly do. Okay, so I thought this was really important to point out. This Kamala Harris story about her dad basically calling her a phony and saying that her grandmother and grandfather and her great-grandmother and great-grandfather are rolling over in their graves over her quote about her family being Jamaican, or part of her family being Jamaican, half her family, about her trying marijuana and, insinuating that, of course, Jamaicans all smoke weed, I find it fascinating. Okay. I only have been able to find this clip twice today about Kamala Harris and her father, Kamala Harris's father, presidential candidate Kamala Harris. Her father called her out basically for being fake and pandering and doing this phony, oh yeah, I smoke weed. Are you kidding? I want marijuana legal. He called her out on it. And I have watched, I found it twice. I found the clip twice on Fox News. Now, I've watched about 9 hours of Fox News today. I've watched about 8 hours of MSNBC today. And I watched about 16 hours, about 14 or 15 hours of CNN today. And then I watch a whole bunch of local, which I was really surprised I didn't see it on any of the local news. I watched probably 4 or 5 hours of local news. I watch an hour of the BBC. I watch hour of French news. I watched an hour of Japanese news. I didn't see it in any of those news, and which I would have expected it to see it actually in the world news too. But there seems to be like some kind of blackout on negative news for Kamala Harris. Everybody's going to say, oh, well, it's really very, very busy news cycle yesterday or today or whatever you want to call it. It's 10 p.m. on the Pacific, on the West Coast. So, anyway, I wanted to make this short. I looked everywhere, and I could only find it on the Fox News channel. So it's really weird to me. Meanwhile, the MSNBC guys are saying, oh, Bernie Sanders not a real Democrat, and trying to blame Bernie Sanders for Donald Trump being president because Bernie Sanders pushed the primary season too far. He should have given up earlier when he knew that Hillary Clinton wasn't going to be indicted by the FBI, because he had that meeting with Barack Obama in the White House, and Obama said, yeah, Hillary's going scot-free, buddy. And Bernie should have just said, okay, well, Hillary's the candidate. Instead, he fought until the end of the primary season, like he promised he would do to all the people he collected money from. And they're trying to say, and the MSNBC guy is trying to say, oh, Bernie's to blame for Donald Trump being in the White House, instead of blaming the DNC, the Democratic National Party, because they cheated. They conspired with Hillary, with their superdelegates, and said, no, this is 2016 is the year of the woman. It's Hillary's turn. She's earned it. Instead of listening to the voters, they were all, no, it's Hillary's turn. She's earned it. And now they're acting the same way about Kamala Harris. They're saying, oh, The View is saying, oh, this is Assad's best friend, basically calling her a traitor, saying that she's basically signed up with ISIS. When it's John, and it's Meghan McCain on The View that's accusing Tulsi Gabbard of like somehow supporting evil in the Mideast, when John McCain, we have photo evidence of John McCain giving ISIS, Al-Qaeda, pallets of $100 bills in Syria, meeting with them, shaking hands with ISIS leaders. We've all seen those pictures. And Meghan McCain wants to call Tulsi Gabbard somehow a traitor. Say, oh, you're Assad's best friend. When I hear the name Tulsi Gabbard, I think Assad's best friend. What a douche. And all of those women on The View were horrible to Tulsi Gabbard and could not hear a word she was saying. So you have MSNBC bashing over here. Oh, and I also watched a couple hours of, or at least a couple hours of the ABC and the CBS News. So I watch a ton of media, and nobody said anything about this Kamala Harris thing, about her father, the father of a presidential candidate, basically calling her a complete phony. And no one says a word about it. Oh, it's a busy news cycle. Yeah, well, that's probably pretty important information when your university college professor father is calling a presidential candidate a complete phony. Her father is calling her a phony. And nobody, MSNBC, they're going to say, oh, this is the place for politics. This is the place for politics, unless it's stuff we don't want you to know about. CNN, whatever, whatever their motto is, whatever, I can't think of it. James Earl Jones says it. But it's weird. I can remember his name, but I can't remember their motto. Most trusted name in news, is that it? Most trusted name in news is not reporting to you that a presidential candidate for the 2020 election, her father just called her a phony. And the most trusted name in news and the place for politics is not reporting it. But of course, Fox News reported it. And I just wanted to point out to you, because I think it's really important, not so much that Fox News covered it, but that these other people didn't. Because they're supposed to be the watchdogs. They're supposed to be the ones informing you about who these people are. And instead, they're keeping this incredibly important knowledge out of your view. Quite purposefully. It's not possible for them not to have known about this, and meanwhile, they're bashing on Bernie Sanders and they're bashing on Tulsi Gabbard. I just wanted to point this out for you because, Fox News motto is unfair and biased. And the reason that I say that is because I don't honestly believe it's possible to do journalism in an unbiased fashion. I think that there's always at least a certain amount of bias when it comes to politics and stuff like that. Because one side is, not one side so much, but there is such a thing as right and wrong. And you don't want to be unbiased when it comes to that. And Fox News motto is unfair and biased, because we will always fall on the side of right. But these other people who say fair and balanced, that means we're going to cloud everything that's reality. We're going to cloud it with just a bunch of bullshit. And whatever other, most trusted name in news, yeah, right. And the place for politics that doesn't even report on the father of a presidential candidate calling her a phony. The college professor father of a presidential candidate for the 2020 election to be president of the United States, the sweetheart the top level contenders. This is who they want to win, is Kamala Harris, and that's why they're not telling you about this. So the fix is in already, and it's obvious, and by them bashing on Bernie, bashing on Tulsi, and not saying a word about a presidential candidate's father bashing on her. The fix is in. So I wanted to make sure that was clear, in case it wasn't already. Thanks very much for tuning in. My name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. And Mox News survives solely on donations and tips from generous people like yourself. It's easy to make a donation or a tip at moxnews.com, or there are clickable links below this video in the text body of this video page. Thanks very much for tuning in. Stay cool. One of these days, this war is going to end. Hopefully, Mox News will be there to celebrate that day with you.
You mentioned Kamala Harris. Do you remember this when she was interviewed on that radio show called The Breakfast Club? Watch this.
They say you oppose legalizing weed.
That's not true.
I know.
and look, I joke about it, half joking. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me?
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay.
Like I inhale. I did inhale.
Okay.
Well, one Jamaican had a big problem with that, how she stereotyped the fact that she's from Jamaica. Of course I've smoked pot. And it's her dad. His name's Donald Harris. He's an economics professor at Stanford University. He said, my dear departed grandmothers, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning in their grave right now to see their family's name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way, jokingly or not, with a fraudulent stereotype of a pot-smoking joy seeker and in the pursuit of identity politics. What's your reaction?
Amen. I'd like to write in Donald Harris instead of Kamala. I mean, the pathetic pandering is so cringeworthy from Kamala Harris that even her phone father is throwing her under the bus after she threw her family under the bus. You know, this is a serious issue, and I have written about my own, I guess, somewhat unorthodox views about medical marijuana in particular, and my own family's positive experience with it. It certainly doesn't help the cause of people who are trying to, argue on behalf of things like that, to have somebody so flippant. And you've got time traveler Kamala Harris, of course, who smoked pot while she was listening to music that hadn't even been made yet.
Right, and she's like a ninth grader. She's a ninth grader trying to be one of the cool kids from the people that brought you Get Me a Beer, Elizabeth Warren. If there's one thing to learn from President Trump and even Bernie Sanders, be yourself. And then we'll decide if you're the right person for the job. She's pretending to be somebody she's not. Michelle, thanks so much.
Yep. Thank you, Michelle.
You bet. Take care, guys.
By the way, we should point out the campaign has had no comment yet on what her father said. Well, but I bet that's coming today.
They will. They'll have to.
All right, it is...